we're going to be starting in Acts 22, verse 30, and doing all of Acts 23. Now, um, we were talking earlier, but my Bluetooth was cutting out. Everything was choppy. So, Acts 21, Acts 22, and Acts 23 is all about Paul being in Jerusalem. And there was a riot that broke out because some of the leading Jews thought that he brought Gentiles into the temple when he didn't. So, um, anyway, we saw that this riot broke out. Last week, Paul gets arrested for his own safety. And then, on top of that, he was going to be beaten by the Roman tribunal because they thought that he was someone he was not. And before they whipped him, he said, "Are you going to whip a Roman citizen?" And that freaked him out because they could be executed for punishing a Roman citizen like that without trial. So now we're going to be getting into the tribunal over here, and we're going to see that Paul's a little bit of a master manipulator. Um, and you'll see what I mean here. So let's jump on in verse 30 of chapter 22. But on the next day, desiring to know the real reason why he was being accused by the Jews, he unbound him and commanded the chief priests and all the council to meet. And he brought Paul down and set him before them. And looking intently at the council, Paul said, "Brothers, I have lived my life before God in all good conscience up to this day." And the high priest Ananias commanded those who stood by him to strike him on the mouth. Then Paul said to him, "God is going to strike you, you whitewashed wall. Are you sitting to judge me according to the law, and yet contrary to the law you order me to be struck?" Those who stood by said, "Would you revile God's high priest?" And Paul said, "I did not know, brothers, that he was the high priest. For it is written, you shall not speak evil of the ruler of your people." Now, when Paul perceived that one part were Sadducees and the other Pharisees, he cried out in the council, "Brothers, I am a Pharisee, a son of Pharisees. It is with respect to the hope and the resurrection of the dead that I am on trial." And when he said this, a dissension arose between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the assembly was divided. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, nor angel, nor spirit, but the Pharisees acknowledge them all. Then a great clamor arose, and some of the scribes of the Pharisees' party stood up and contended sharply. "We find nothing wrong in this man. What if a spirit or an angel spoke to him?" And when the dissension became violent, the tribune, afraid that Paul would be torn to pieces by them, commanded the soldiers to go down and take him away from among them by force and bring him into the barracks. The following night, the Lord stood by him and said, "Take courage, for as you have testified to the facts about me in Jerusalem, so you must testify also in Rome." Oh, excuse me, I'm tired. So, what did you guys like about what we read here?
Saying that the Lord stood near Paul and he's telling him to be like, brave and keep doing what he's doing, that he's going to have to continue doing it.
I can
Giving him.
barely hear you, Tamara.
Why is it so? It must be my connection. I'll go out and come back in.
Okay. Anyone else? What did you like? All right, Tamara, give it a try.
Is that any better?
A little bit.
Okay. No, I was just saying that I like that the Lord was speaking to him and giving him courage to continue on his journey that he's laid out for him.
Yeah. That sounds really nice and sweet, doesn't it? Well, let's talk about that a little bit, Tamara.
Even though it's going to be terrifying.
Oh, yeah. Because if his own Jewish people were going to tear him apart, what do you think Caesar, this will be Nero, he's going to go see, is going to do?
Way, way worse.
Mm-hmm. You think Nero fears God?
No.
So, just so you know,
No.
Nero had a transgendered husband that he would parade in front of himself when he would go out.
Doesn't sound
What?
too
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, Nero swung both ways. And he had a a transgendered husband. So
That's not.
if these hardcore religious people are going to treat him like that, what do you think? How do you think Nero's going to treat him when he goes to see Nero? Yeah.
Good thing he's got God giving him strength.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Anything else you guys liked?
I like the first couple of verses there of 23. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm wondering if it's my phone because I'm not getting huge volume.
You could hear. I don't know if you click on me, you could turn my volume up.
No,
Just hold.
I think I'm just used to my tripod, and my tripod broke. So I'm just resting this up, and maybe my volume is. Try that. Maybe that's a little bit better.
Testing.
That's a little bit better, Will. Yeah, try it.
Okay. I like how right there at the beginning of 23,
Mm-hmm.
goes, brothers, I've always lived before God in all good conscience.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that, he says, God will slap you, you whitewashed wall.
Yeah.
Calling him out right after he says he has always served God with good conscience.
Yes.
So, yeah. So
is
okay,
Paul a little feisty?
maybe a little bit.
A little feisty? Paul's got some fight in him, eh?
But yeah.
Yeah. So
He's got God in his ear, though he can be.
say that again, Tamara. I cut you off.
I said he's got God in his corner. He can be feisty.
Yeah, but when he smack talked the high priest, what did Paul do after that?
He apologized.
He apologized. So why do you think Paul apologized?
Because he was talking bad.
Okay. Now
No,
let's talk about this. Go ahead, Will.
Well, it just says, for the scriptures say, do not speak evil of anyone who rules over you, in which somewhat standpoint that would, the high priest would sort of somehow with
That's
their,
right. That's right.
with
Now,
everything.
would Paul have found that command in the New Testament or the Old Testament?
Old.
Have you guys ever heard people say we don't have to follow the law anymore because we're under grace?
Yeah, but you still have to watch a little bit what you're doing here. It's not all, you still have to live like a Christian, in my opinion.
Okay.
You can't
I
just
heard
go around doing whatever you want and say, "Oh, well, it's okay. We're saved by grace." You still have to have a little bit of Christian attitude in there. I'm
Okay.
sorry. That's my opinion, but
Okay. Anyone else?
I'm curious about how he would have, regardless of if he was just somebody he didn't know was the high priest or not.
Oh, that's a great question.
Well, yeah.
Okay,
But then
so
he does immediately realize because he was so, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
okay, so what happened on the road to Damascus in Acts chapter 9? What happened to Paul?
God got a hold of his attention.
How did God get a hold of him?
He appeared to him. He yelled at him a few times, right? Said, "Why are you persecuting me?"
And what shone around him?
Like bright light. I
A
don't know.
bright light. Okay. Steve was talking about this. It's kind of like a welder's arc, I think he called it there last week. And a bright light that blinded him for 3 days. And it was last week he was giving his testimony. Was it last week or the week before he was giving his testimony? And talk about how he went blind from this light. He never fully regained his eyesight. He still could see. I think it's the book of Galatians. We'll jump on over there. Okay. Yeah, Galatians chapter 6, verse 11. Yeah, Paul says, "See with what large letters I am writing to you with my own hand." So, what happened in Galatians is Paul would have used someone called an amanuensis. So Paul would dictate the letter, and the amanuensis would write it out. And then Paul signs his name with these big letters because Paul can barely see. And so over here, he starts beaking off at the high priest that slapped him. And the high priest had every right to be called what he was called. But Paul didn't know it was the high priest because he couldn't see. He couldn't see well. So let's talk about this. We have Paul, who can barely see. He doesn't take much funding for his mission trips. He's a tent maker, meaning he's a leather worker. If you're working with leather, now you're doing a lot of fine stitching. He's almost blind doing it. He's preaching the gospel and getting beat up in every city. Why did he keep going? Like, for the rest of us, how many of you would say, "I'm done with this. This is stupid. I can't see. I'm getting beat up, getting slapped
I think
around."
his faith kept him going. I think his
His faith
faith
kept him
and
going.
love and his love for God.
Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. How many Christians do you know that don't even know how to share the gospel, let alone go out and do it? They won't show up to church when it's snowing out, or it's cold out, or a certain worship team is singing because they're singing so bad they won't show up.
Oh my!
Do you know what I'm talking
Really?
about?
I do, but I still go. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And here's Paul, can barely see, goes through hardships, and we're going to see even more hardships that he goes through later on here, and gets beat up in every city. And he keeps going. And every time he goes, he gets more joy. Where's your focus? Right? Anything else you guys liked about this?
No, but I
Yeah.
have a question. Oh, go ahead, Will. Sorry.
No, just at the end. Okay, real quick. At the end, as he says, "Good job. You know, just as you did this here, but now you're going to Rome."
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that one tonight. Yeah, you got you got smacked around by the high priest over here. You wait until you get to Rome, buddy. But Jesus is with him, right? Okay, is there anything
Amen.
that you guys didn't like about this? Okay.
The
Is there
the
anything you
barracks is
go
jail,
ahead,
right?
Tamara?
The barracks when he was taken to the barracks, that's jail, right?
Kind of. Um,
Oh,
the barracks would be like army barracks. So the Jews aren't going to go into the army barracks, right? All those soldiers in there would beat them up pretty good. So at least you had like a place to stay and lay down and things like that. Anything else
Okay,
you
I
guys
have a
did?
question.
Yeah, go ahead, Gina.
Question. And this might be a real funny question to you, but to me,
Yeah.
what's the difference between Pharisee and Sadducee?
So that's not a funny question at all. I was actually expecting that question. So before I answer that, I want to talk to you about something called the Sanhedrin, because that's where he was meeting, was the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin was the leading Jewish council, and it was comprised of 70 leading elders in Israel, most likely Jerusalem. It would be the high priest and 69 more. Half would be Sadducees and half would be Pharisees. Now, you have to remember, the New Testament's not written yet. The Sadducees do not believe in angels, spirits, or the resurrection, and they only follow the law of Moses, which is Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. That's it. The Pharisees believe in spirits and angels and miracles and the resurrection. So now Paul sees a way to turn these people against each other so he can kind of get out of there. Because he knows, if I don't get out of here, I'm probably going to get killed. Is Paul a Pharisee or a Sadducee?
He said he was a Pharisee.
He's a Pharisee. So what does he say? Brothers, I'm a Pharisee,
Fun.
and it's on account of the resurrection that I'm here, which infuriated the Sadducees. And as you can see, now it's turned into a ballroom brawl. A bunch of religious people going at it. And they pulled Paul out of there. The Romans pulled Paul out of there because they thought that these religious people were going to tear him limb from limb.
So would a Sadducee be then like Jewish? Is that a dumb question? The Jew people in the sense that we know them now,
No,
like the one that
no.
crossed with my daughter.
No, so most of them would be Pharisaical. And,
Okay.
you know, a lot of us think that Pharisees were evil people, and they weren't evil, mean people. That's the thing. They thought,
They were misguided.
what's that?
They were misguided and not properly educated.
Yeah. They thought they were loving God by following the letter of the law. And Jesus says, look, you're following the letter of the law, but you're not following the spirit of the law. And have you guys ever, I'm going to call them church people, okay? Okay, you guys remember Dana Carvey from Saturday Night Live, and he would do the church lady? Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my, oh my. Someone's been into Satan's lettuce, right? You know what I'm talking about? Have you ever... Dana Carvey did a really good impersonation of a church person. Not a Christian, but a church person. Have you ever noticed that church people are very judgmental? And they're angry a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. They're following the letter of the law and not the spirit of the law. Right?
Right.
You notice you got to look at the fruit of the flesh and the fruit of the spirit. Fruit of the spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and self-control. Where the fruit of the flesh is anger and fits of rage and things like this, and conceited, and you get to this. A Pharisee thinks they're good when a Christian knows they're not worthy. Do you see the difference?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. One thinks that if they do all the religious things, they can earn God's favor. The Christian says, because I have earned God's favor by what he has done, not by what I have done, I'm going to live my life for him according to his way. I don't have to earn God's love because he's already loved me. So I'm going to live his way because he wants me to. Okay, anything else you guys did? Did I answer your question, Gina?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Thank you.
That is fine.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Lucas.
Was it a fact that Nicodemus was the teacher of teachers?
Okay. I'm going to pause this video for a second. I'm going to get out of the video and start the video again, okay? Okay, Lucas, can you say that again?
My question is, was Nicodemus really the teacher of teachers? Was he the top of the Sanhedrin? Was he the top teacher to preach the word?
Okay,
Or the
so
law?
Nicodemus was, Jesus called him the teacher of Israel, not a teacher. Well, let's go to John chapter 3. And okay. Yeah, so John chapter 3 verse 10. Jesus says, Jesus answered him, "Are you the teacher of Israel? And yet you do not understand these things." You notice he said, "Are you the teacher," and not a teacher. So Nicodemus was part of the Sanhedrin, and he was the head of teaching for Israel. That's a very important role. And he didn't get it. He didn't get it.
And he was the one. And he was the one that followed Jesus.
Yeah.
Because
So
he's seen what he sees.
we see that he actually did become a believer because it was him and Joseph of Arimathea that buried Jesus after his crucifixion. See, what would have happened is if they didn't bury him, Jesus would have just been thrown into a grave, like an open grave full of rotting corpses of criminals. But they actually buried him. And you wouldn't do that to someone you hated. Right? Are you guys there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is a really bad connection tonight. I can barely hear you guys.
It is. It's so bad.
I don't even know who's talking.
It was me,
Okay.
Tamara.
Yeah.
Sounds
It's been
the
great
X-Files.
here.
Yeah. Guys, I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to shut this chat off and turn it back on, okay? That is way better. Okay.
What's up, Andre?
Okay. Will?
Awesome.
Okay. Andre's here?
There's Andre.
Yeah. Okay. That's sounding. It's not what it usually is, but it's a lot better than it was. I think it was just a bad connection. Okay. So let's keep on reading then. And we will go from 23:12 to 22. Okay. When it was day, the Jews made a plot and bound themselves by an oath neither to eat nor drink till they had killed Paul. There were more than 40 who made this conspiracy. They went to the chief priests and elders and said, "We have strictly bound ourselves by an oath to taste no food till we have killed Paul. Now, therefore, you, along with the council, give notice to the tribune to bring him down to you as though they were going to determine his case more exactly, and we are ready to kill him before he comes near." Now, the son of Paul's sister heard of their ambush, so he went and entered the barracks and told Paul. Paul called one of the centurions and said, "Take this young man to the tribune, for he has something to tell him." So he took him and brought him to the tribune and said, "Paul, the prisoner, called me and asked me to bring this young man to you as he has something to say to you." The tribune took him by the hand and going aside asked him privately, "What is it that you have to tell me?" And he said, "The Jews have agreed to ask you to bring Paul down to the council tomorrow, as though they are going to inquire somewhat more closely about him. But do not be persuaded by them, for more than 40 of their men are lying in ambush for him, who have bound themselves by an oath neither to eat nor drink till they have killed him. And now they are ready, waiting for your consent." So the tribune dismissed the young man, charging him, "Tell no one that you have informed me of these things." So, what did you guys like about this part?
You have a conspiracy, and it is foiled.
That's right. Foiled by Paul's nephew. Now, let's take a look at this. What did the tribune do with his nephew? It says it took him by the hand. Would you take a growing man by the hand?
No.
This is a young
Must be a
child.
kid.
This is a young kid. What does this tell you about the bravery of this kid? To go up to a Roman, a Jew going up to a Roman. Excuse me, sir. My uncle is going to be killed by these Jews. That's interesting, isn't it?
That's brave.
That's very brave. What does
But it's Paul's nephew,
That's
so
Paul's
doesn't
nephew.
surprise me. Doesn't surprise me what Paul's gone through that his boy
Paul
would be
is
brave.
Paul's a feisty one, and it probably
Yeah.
runs in the family. I'm going to grab some more
Yeah.
water. You guys keep talking. Anything else you guys liked?
The commander said, don't let anyone know you told me this."
That's right.
I like that.
Keep it hush hush. We're going to keep it on the down low. We don't want this getting out because we're going to save your uncle.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anything else you guys liked?
I like they believe the kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They didn't dismiss him.
Yeah. But they had every reason to believe the kid because those Jews were going to tear him to pieces there just a couple hours before.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else you guys liked? Okay, anything you didn't like?
Well, that they want to do that in the first place. 40 of them that they're conspiring to do that.
Okay.
I don't like that.
Okay. Did these 40 men do something really stupid?
I think so.
Okay. Why do you think so, Steve?
Because they're not going to eat or drink before they kill Paul.
That's right. And are these Jewish people that are going after Paul, do they strictly observe the law? What do you guys think? Do you think that they're kind of wishy-washy on the law, or do you think that they strictly observe it?
I'm gonna say wishy-washy just for the
Right.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say wishy-washy too.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. They're actually very strict. That's why they made
Ooh.
the vow.
Oh, okay. So they were serious.
They're very serious. And the book of Numbers tells us the rules about vows. And God gets very upset when you make a vow and don't hold to it. God was, I don't know what God did to these men. We'll look into it. But they got on God's bad side with this. Is there anything else you guys didn't like? Okay. Anything that you didn't understand? All right, buddy.
Why do they want to kill him so bad?
Let's talk about that, Gina.
Okay.
Okay. Tomorrow night, I'm teaching on Revelation chapter 5. And what we're going to see in Revelation chapter 5, I'll send you guys the video when I'm done teaching that class. We're going to see something that happened the moment that Adam sinned. The moment that Adam sinned, well, before he sinned, let's go before that. God said that mankind, Adam, or man, or mankind, was to have dominion over the birds of the air and the fish of the sea and everything on earth. And so the moment that Adam sinned, and Satan tricked Adam and Eve to sin, there was a role reversal. And Satan, so Adam forfeited his dominionship to Satan. And Satan now has dominion over the earth and not mankind. So you have to keep that in effect here.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, like it's deep stuff, and we'll be talking about that tomorrow night.
Yeah. That's pretty cool, actually, to hear that.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Okay, so now, can Satan kill Jesus? He tried to, and what happened? Jesus
No,
died and he
I don't.
resurrected.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, no, he can't be killing him. No.
Okay. So if you can't kill Jesus, who are you going to kill?
Oh. Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay.
By the way, do you know that in the last
Right.
100 years, there has been more Christians killed for their faith in the last 100 years than all 2,000 years before combined?
Now here's a question.
Yes.
Wow.
What would happen if Satan was killed?
We'll be talking about that. Satan will be killed. What's going to happen is Satan, after the Great Tribulation, during the millennium, Satan is going to be bound in chains and thrown in the pit for 1,000 years. At the end of that 1,000 years, he's going to come out. He's going to have free reign. He's going to deceive many. And then there's going to be the great white throne judgment. And the first two people that are going to be thrown into the lake of fire are Satan and the beast. And then everyone's name who was not written in the book of life will be thrown in there also. So this is the next timetable. Like this is what's left on the timetable before eternity. Okay. We have the rapture. We have the great tribulation that lasts for 7 years. We have a 1,000-year period after that. Then all evil and Satanism and Satan and death get thrown into the lake of fire, and it is everlasting life for us after that, nonstop. Hope I answered your question there, Lucas.
That's I didn't know about that 1,000-year thing again.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anything else you guys didn't understand from this? Okay, what does this tell us about Jesus?
Well, so far it tells me that he's eternal because even though he was killed and resurrected, can't end him, can't finish him.
That's right. That's right.
Tells me that by your belief in him, that your spirit's the same way.
That's right. That's very good. Anything else? What else does this tell us about Jesus? Let me put it this way. Did Jesus use Paul? Did Jesus use Paul? Are you guys there?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So Paul is highly educated, right? Paul wrote a third of the New Testament. Paul started many churches and went on 3 missionary journeys. God used Paul. But you know who else God used? His young nephew. Jesus can use you. Whether you're a highly educated, highly evangelistic missionary, and he can use you if you're a little kid. All you need to do is make yourself available for God to use you. Pretty cool, huh?
Absolutely.
Okay. Verse 23, we'll finish the chapter. Then he called 2 of the centurions and said, "Get ready 200 soldiers with 70 horsemen and 200 spearmen to go out as far as Caesarea at the 3rd hour of the night. Also provide mounts for Paul to ride and bring him safely to Felix the governor." And he wrote a letter to this effect. "Claudius Lysias, to His Excellency the Governor Felix, greetings. This man was seized by the Jews and was about to be killed by them when I came upon them with the soldiers and rescued him, having learned that he was a Roman citizen. And desiring to know the charge for which they were accusing him, I brought him down to their council. I found that he was being accused about questions of their law, but charged with nothing deserving death or imprisonment. And when it was disclosed to me that there would be a plot against the man, I sent him to you at once, ordering his accusers also to state before you what they have against him." So the soldiers, according to their instructions, took Paul and brought him by night to Antipatris. And on the next day they returned to the barracks, letting the horsemen go on with him. When they had come to Caesarea, they delivered the letter to the governor. They prepared Paul also before him. On reading the letter, he was asked what province he was from, and when he learned that he was from from Cilicia, he said, "I will give you a hearing when your accusers arrive." And he commanded him to be guarded in Herod's praetorium. So, what did you guys like about that?
They took Paul out of danger.
They took Paul out of danger. I want you to see something here. Were these Christian men that took Paul out of danger?
They were troops.
Were they
Weren't they?
Gentile people?
The Roman soldiers, right?
Yeah, they're Roman soldiers, so they're Gentiles. Felix was not a Christian. Did these Roman soldiers have more compassion than the religious people?
Seems so.
Seems so. I'm going to tell you a story. When you're in church leadership, you get beat up. You just get beat up. Psychologically, mentally, verbally. By church people. Not by Christians, but by church people. Okay? We talked about the difference. I was youth pastor in Texas. There was a girl. I don't want to say her name because I can say her first name because no one really knows her last name over here. Her name was Amanda. And she came to our youth group in grade 9. Grade 9, she was a practicing bisexual. And the reason for that is what triggered it is when she was in grade 7, her brother's friend raped her. So not only was she a practicing bisexual, she was also a cutter, like she would self-inflict her own wounds. And she learned about Jesus, and it changed her life. And her mother, who never came to church, said, I don't know what you guys are doing here, but I love what you're doing with my daughter. And I've got your back on everything. That's something else, eh?
It's awesome.
You're going to find, I want to be careful how I say this because church is not bad. But Satan does his best work in church. And he knows that if he can bring disunity into a church, the evangelism will stop. But it seems to me that there's more compassion outside of the church in some circumstances than there is inside the church because of, I'm going to call them satanic plants in the church. Very interesting. Is there anything else that you guys liked about this?
I like that it's a true story.
Say that again, Lucas.
I said I like that it's a true story.
It's a true story. Yeah. Like We're talking real historical names. Yeah. Really cool. Anything else you guys liked? Okay, is there anything you didn't like about this? Anything you didn't understand? Okay. So what does this tell us about Jesus? Let's break this down. What did Jesus tell Paul after the tribune saved him from being ripped apart limb from limb?
So he said, "Good job, you're going to Rome."
Good job. Now you're going to go to Rome, you're going to tell him the same thing.
And to be encouraged.
Encouraged. Are you seeing how God's preparing this? You see how God prepared through Gentile Roman non-Christian soldiers to save Paul. Do you see how now the governor is going to get involved in this? Now he's going to go to the governor. This is the next step. When God sets forth a plan, he will fulfill that plan in your life. You see that? Now, let's take that to current day events. Oh, was it 2 weeks ago? FTX, the cryptocurrency, crashed, went belly up. Guy has to file for bankruptcy protection. The very next day, the United States starts implementing a tryout on digital currency. And we need digital currency available for the mark of the beast. Do you see how this is going?
Yeah, they can go a little bit
I
faster
do.
though.
Yeah. God has put this plan in place, just like he put it in place with Paul. But what's exciting for us is because the rapture happens before the tribulation, and we're seeing all of this come, we're seeing loose ends being tied up right now. That means we are very close to the tribulation, which means we're very close to the rapture. And God's going to fulfill his plan very quickly. That's exciting news. That's exciting news. So as we are living in God's plan right now, we are seeing God's plan for the Great Tribulation come together, which means God's plan for the rapture is going to happen before the Great Tribulation comes together. How should we be living right now?
Everything for God.
Everything for God. And what did God come to do, Steve? What did Jesus come to do?
Save us.
Save us. So what should we be about?
Saving other people.
Sharing the gospel.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. Okay, guys, this ends our portion